There are multiple reasons why you may want to use interest management for your multiplayer game. One reason is the scale of your world. If you have a big world, you only want to send what's relevant to a player. Another reason is visibility. Not everyone should see every object or player all the time, behind walls or other scenes. It also helps prevent cheating. Mirror has a lot of really helpful interest management components that are built in. You can use interest management based on distance, scenes, and many others. You can also create your own custom interest management system for your own needs. How you need to set up the interest management script will depend on your game, but I will show you how to edit it and share with you a simple trick I used for scene interest management. In a previous tutorial, I show how to set up additive levels in scene interest management, but I will be adding on to that tutorial here and show you some issues and how to fix them. Let's start by going to our Room 1 scene. We can create an object here for testing. I'm going to call it Table, then add an image as a child of this object. We can add a collider to the parent of this object. Next, I'm going to create a circle object as a child of the table and call it Ball. This is an item we can have the player equip, pick up, and set down on the table. Let's disable the ball object for now. We are going to create a collision layer called interactable. This will be used to check if the player is in range of the table. Go to the table object and set the layer to interactable. Go to the player prefab. We are going to edit the player move script. At the top, let's create a reference to the interactable layer mask we just created. Then a game object variable we will use to keep track of which object is closest in range that we can interact with. In the update function, we are going to get a list of objects that are within a range of the player. We can use the layer mask to only get objects with the interactable layer. The overlap circle will find all objects that have the interactable layer within a range. Now we will loop through those and find which one is the closest to the player. We can check the distance of each collider in the list. Set the object player is near variable with the object that is closest. Go to the player prefab, and on the player move script component, set the interactable mask to interactable. Now in the player move script again, we are going to create a sync var hook. A sync var is a variable that is synced from server to clients. Using the hook attribute will allow you to specify a function to be called when the value of that variable is changed. For the player, we are going to create a hook that will call a function called onEquipItemChanged whenever the equipped item string is changed. Let's create that function. There will be two parameters that are passed in this function, which will be the old value and then the new value. Go back up to the top and create a reference to the ball object. In the onEquipItemChanged function, we will check the new equipped item value, and if it's empty, we will hide the ball object, or if the value is ball, we will show the ball object. Go back to the Room 1 scene where your table object is. We are going to create a new script called Table Interactable. Drag this script to the table object. Add the mirror library at the top and change it to a network behavior. Create a reference variable for the ball object that will be on the table. In the update function, we will get and loop through all players, a check if it's the local player, and then a check to see if they are pressing a key. We are going to call a command which will be sent from the player pressing the button to the object that is on the server. Before we add anything here, we are going to create a sync var hook, just like we did with the player. The onTableItemChanged function will be called whenever the table item variable is changed. Let's create this function, which will be very similar to the function in the player script. Now in the command function, we will first check if the ball is on the table and the player is not holding anything, and swap to show the player holding the ball. Then a check to see if the player is holding the ball and it is not on the table, then swap again. These will allow the player to pick up or set down the ball on the table. In the start function, let's set the server to have the ball enabled already, and the client will set the current table item state when they join. If you'd like to support this tutorial, and also the development for the game I am currently working on, Home Slice, check out the Patreon, which I will link below. Now back to the tutorial, thank you. We can go ahead and test. This works for the server player, but let's try it with 2 players. It works so far. When the client is in the other scene, the host server can pick up the ball. Now, when the host is in the other scene, and a client picks up the ball, you will notice that the ball becomes visible on the host. This is a common issue when starting with scene interest management, but I will show you an easy fix for this. Go to the offline scene and on the Network Manager object, scroll down and find the Scene Interest Management script. Open it. This script handles everything when a scene changes. I'm not going to go into detail about what all of these override functions do, as it depends on your game, but we are going to go to the bottom and add an override for set host visibility. This is going to control what each player sees, depending on which scene they are in. Calling the base set host visibility will handle most renderers already for all objects with the network identity component. You can go even further and set canvas renderers or other renderer types if needed. Now the easy fix I am going to use that will take care of all objects, no matter what is on them, is going to be setting up an interest parent for each network object, and then I will set the visibility for that object. That way, any child object under this object can be enabled or disabled, but will only show depending on if the interest parent is visible in that scene or not. Let's tweak this for the player prefab. We are going to create a tag called interest parent. We can use the equipped item object on our player for the interest parent object. Set the tag to interest parent. Now go to room 1 scene, and we will do the same for the table object, but we will need to create the interest parent object under this. Set the tag. Move any objects that may get enabled or disabled under this object, such as the ball. We will need to edit these references to the ball objects in their scripts. Now we can test it. Everything works like it should. I'm going to make a few extra changes to show you how to instantiate the ball, instead of just disabling it. In the persistent scene, we are going to create an items object parent, where we can create a list of objects we will be able to instantiate. I will just create the ball object. Disable the object. On your player prefab object, you can now remove the ball child object. Do the same for your table object in the Room 1 scene. Go back to the persistent scene. We are going to create a new script for Items Manager. Add an Items Manager object and attach the Items Manager script to it. In this script, we will create a reference to the item's parent object. Drag the items object to the items list object field. In the table interactable script, create a reference to the Items Manager script. We are going to make some changes in the onTableItemChanged function. You can remove any of the ball object references. This will destroy any current child objects under the interest parent. Then we can instantiate the new item using the item list object. We will do the same in the player move script. Remove any references to the ball object. Add a reference to the Items Manager script. We will change the onEquipItemChanged function, just like the onTableItemChanged function. Let's tweak the interactable table script start function. If you notice the ball sometimes doesn't appear for one or both players, it may just be a sorting layer issue. Go to the persistent scene, and for the ball object, set the sorting layer to 1. Now everything should work. If you run into any issues with this tutorial, or if there are any specific issues you are having related to interest management, add them to the comments below. I may do more videos on this topic if any come up. If you'd like to support this tutorial, and also the development of my game, Home Slice, check out my Patreon, where I will be sharing gameplay clips, exclusive designs, and more as the game progresses. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up to support the channel and subscribe to stay updated on future videos. Thank you for watching.